Greetings, 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 TGIF, everyone. What's going on? What's happening? How are you? Hope you guys are doing well, enjoying the start of this weekend. And it is pretty much the last weekend in March. Spring is here. I don't feel it, but it is here. It is. And right now in Chicago, we have a wind advisory. So just to warn you that if I get knocked off internet, that'll be why. But I'll come back as soon as I can. Hey, that's just how it is. Not my fault, but hey. What is happening? Um, I am glad to see you all. I'm glad you're here. You can be anywhere else, and I thank you so much for tuning in. It is my hope and prayer that tonight will be an awesome night. That there will be some clarity, there will be some revelation, and some healing. I'm looking for all of it. You know, what happens is I understand when it comes down to men, especially, they're not very vocal when it comes to what's going on. You know, they're mostly problem solvers, they try to figure it out on their own. I get that. And I do have questions about that. And I can only get the answers from a man that knows, you know. And I invited my two guests to come in and talk about it tonight. And it's so funny that one of them did a stream today and answered the question that I had. It was funny. I said, wait a minute. This is revelation. I was wondering about this, you know. And what happened? I had went out to the store because I'm like, if I don't go now, then I'm gonna get jacked up in this rain, this wind, because it was drizzling a little bit when I left the house. And sure enough, when I got home, got settled, that wind picked up, that rain started coming down. I'm like, right on time. So, but yeah, mental health is important. And there is, I don't know what state it is, but it is in a particular state that celebrates Mental Health Month beginning the middle of March. And some states call April Mental Health Month. And I'm thinking that is because it's a change of a season. You know, after the winter, spring comes, and people have dealt with that dreary winter weather. You're inside more than you're out, unless you're, one of those people like to go out there and play in the snow, ski, and all them kind of things. But I don't know. You have less vitamin D because you're not outside. That's another thing. So it is a change. And you have less sunlight. Think of all of that. So I'm looking forward to tonight's conversation. I really am. And I hope you all are too. If you know of something, do feel free to chat in the chat room. You know, it doesn't have to be you. It could be, about you rather. It can be about someone you know. Because you never know a specific situation can be discussed. You know, a lot of people just in general keep things bottled up. They don't see a way out. And that stuff sits in you and can fester. You can be angry because I know that happened to me when I had a bout of depression, at least the last one. It was just, I was just so angry. And it was from work, it wasn't even from home. It's just, I just left, the anger was just inside of me. Because I don't like games. I've never been a person that likes to play games. Just tell me what it is and let's work it out. You know, you don't have to try to manipulate me to try to get me to work harder or give you more. This production, I don't know. Um, I've just never been. I don't. I don't. I don't need people to watch over me. I'll put it that way. And if you can see that about me, you see that's my character, then leave me be. Don't treat me like everyone else. It's just like the story I mentioned to you, if you were here, that we had this person that was in at work and they abused everything. The lunch, the you could take a break for 15 minutes and you didn't have to worry about anything. If you just need a break to stretch or whatever, stretch your legs, you can don't go do that. But you know what ended up happening? That person took advantage of that. Just one person now, one out of 15. Then you had the abuse of the phone. They will be on the phone. So, this bright idea that the management had was okay, what we're going to do every time you make a call, you have to write down the number, say if it was personal business, was it received or made, and how long you were on the phone. Now, everyone in their 30 years and older, 30, about 30 and older, who wants to do all of that? We're adults. Why I got to do all that to say I got a phone call from my son's school for 3 minutes? Why? Why? So that was ridiculous to me. And all I'm thinking of, this has to do with the fact that one person and you won't address them. So you're going to treat me in a way that affects me because of that one person that you don't address. Same person, like I said, also abused the 15-minute break. So because of that, they had you to sign in and out of break on a board. And I'm thinking about time I stand in line behind 14 other people, or depends on when you got in the line, to say I'm going on break. And then you come back for that, stand in line to say I'm back. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I'm just looking at these people. I'm like, this is the management. They're in their late 40s. I'm in my mid 30s. Why did I think this is a bad idea and you didn't? You're in the management. What's up with this? So I felt some kind of way about it. So that's what I'm saying when I don't like to be affected because everyone else, I'm not that person. I'm not. If I get a phone call or I make one, you don't see me hanging around. You don't see me hanging out at the water cooler or any of those things. So the issue I really had from work was the fact that um, when I wanted to leave this particular department, they didn't want me to leave, and they manipulated things. Um, they didn't. I wouldn't say they lied on me because it wasn't a lie. It was just impossible to do. Um, and that's what I gave when it came down to therapy. That's what I told the people in therapy. I said they handed me a dime and a nickel, and they told me it was 25 cents. And every day, 5 days a week for 8 hours a day, they tried to make me say that it was 25 cents. And I refused to do so. You can't do that. It's impossible. It doesn't make any sense. But that was how it was. And after so much of that, I just couldn't take it anymore. I just shut down. I was angry. I wanted to move on. And then they didn't even want me to move on. They tried to stop me from doing that, block that. So um, my body just said I had enough. I was so angry, tears rolling down my eyes, and that was that. But um, I don't know how all men deal with it. Most I've seen is just to be quiet. And some men that I talked to just said they were in a fog and nobody could understand. And that's the most I kind of got out of those who dealt with some things, you know. So that's my intro. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and bring up the lovely and the wonderful Classic Ruby, everybody. Classic Ruby.
Why, good evening and TGIL to all you lovely people out there. You can stop applauding and screaming. Your throats are probably tired now because you're like, oh my God, Ruby's oh my God, oh my God. I know. Thank you very much. Y'all can sit down for now. You want to applaud me later, it's all right. You can rest. How you doing this lovely evening, Char?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm looking forward to this discussion. I am really hoping. Listen, I hear people say all the time, I've been hearing people say for years now, men's mental health. How come no one talks about men's mental health? How come no one cares about that? Right? So I'm very happy that we are tackling this head on today. And I really hope that people come out and support and come and, especially the men, come up and share and speak because, the only way we're ever going to learn anything is if we start talking about it. So I think it's going to be a really good discussion.
Yeah, I do too. And since they're not here now, what I'll go ahead and do is play the video I have queued up because, as I said, the video today, it was just so funny that it answered some questions I had when it came
Hmm.
down to um, some questions about men and
All
how they
right.
express things.
Okay. I'm looking forward to this. Let's see. I mean, sometimes the universe reads your mind. So,
Yes.
mhm.
All right. So let me share it here. Make this bigger. You're not gonna let me till I push play, are you? Yep. I said make it bigger. There it is, finally. It was being mean to me. All right.
Mhm.
Okay, here we go. And we'll get started.
Those Gen X men did not trust those baby boomer men. Why? Because those baby boomer men lied to them, led them astray, told them a bunch of bullshit, lied to them, left them, abandoned them. A lot of Gen X men deal with abandonment, especially Gen X black men. They deal with abandonment issues. My uncles, they Gen X men. They deal with abandonment issues. This is why they don't get along with a lot of millennial men because a lot of them are mad because a lot of us had our dads. A lot of us had big brothers and uncles and shit that they didn't have. They didn't have that. They didn't have no form of counsel. A lot of the Gen X men had to raise themselves. So they grew up with a level of resentment. See? This is why they talk shit about the millennials. Oh, y'all men are lazy. Y'all don't want to do nothing. Y'all ain't had as hard as us. And this is why they look down on us. And this is why we can't unify. This is spiritual warfare. See, because when you're talking about trust, you're talking about an internal value that goes back to spiritual, which ties into family issues. And when we're talking about a brotherhood or us looking at each other as brothers, we're talking about family. You see? So you see why we can't operate as family? Because of the lack of trust for oneself. If you've been abandoned all your life, how do you ever feel like that you can be there for someone else? This is why you always heard me say, brothers, we got to heal before we build. How are you going to trust that I won't do you dirty? That I won't rob you? I won't steal from you? I won't try to harm you? I won't try to harm your children? I wouldn't try to have sex with your woman. If you grew up in a time where that shit was normal and you saw men around you crossing each other, and not only crossing each other, but crossing each other out. And this shit get played out right here on YouTube amongst black men. We cross each other out because this is all we saw. This is all we know. See? That's why we got to heal before we build. We have to.
Okay, I'll stop right there. Welcome. Let's see. I've seen somebody come in the room. Where's Go Professor? What's going on? I gotta say your name 3 times. Go Professor. Go Professor. Go Professor. How you doing? Welcome on in.
Beetlejuice. Sorry, that's
So you couldn't help yourself.
I couldn't. I was because I saw him coming too, and I'm like, I wonder if she got to say his name 3 times today too. Like I wasn't sure what the rules are on this going forward, so I'm glad to know. Yes, the answer is yes. Okay, got it.
I have to make sure he feels special. See, so I say it 3 times, and I don't do anyone else like this. I figured he would feel special.
You know what? I feel that because I get my own entrance song at least once a week, right? And then I also get my special applause and whatever. So I get it. Don't worry, Gold Professor. We ain't making fun of y'all because Ruby is exactly like you. It's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, I had money, I'd give money away. I don't have it, so I have to find something to make you feel special.
Exactly.
All right. So I've emailed the guys and saying, "Hey, where you at?" So I'll see if I get a response. Hopefully we didn't get lost in the sauce. But I let me see. Did I type it in the chat room? I didn't push send. Let me see. I think that's what it was. Yeah, I wrote 2 things down. I'm trying to look for it. What did I do with it? Oh, I didn't push send. The trust and the abandonment. That's what it was. And as simple as that is, and that is simple, I just didn't connect. That's what's going on. I just did not. And I'm okay with that. You know, I'm not going to beat myself up. You should have been smart enough to know that. No, I didn't connect the things together. But hearing it come from a man makes a lot of sense now, because if you don't have the trust there, then it's going to be hard to build with each other because the trust isn't there. And then the second thing he mentioned was abandonment. I'm like, I forgot about that part. Think about how people you hear in the YouTube, they're always talking about um, the black mother, she threw away the father or whatever, it said. The father isn't there, and now these children are grown up now, and you see them on YouTube in the way you see them. Now it makes sense of what's going on, because I always question, I'm like, what's going on with the maturity? What's going on with the focus? Those are some things, some questions I always had. I'm like, wow. So that's why I said with this stream that he did today, I'm like, wow. I said, I got my answer. The simple question, got my answer.
So I have a question. So, okay, because I don't know, maybe I wasn't sure the directionality, shall we say.
Okay.
So what he was saying then, from what you're saying, is that the Generation X guys had, if not their fathers, they had older brothers and male role models, and the younger generations don't and feel abandoned by Generation X and the older people, and that's why they don't trust them. Is that what he was saying?
Okay, so I get crossed up with the names, but the older, let's say the 40 and 50-year olds had
Mhm.
children, and these 20 and 30-year olds are having issues now. So
Okay.
whatever group that comes in.
Okay. Yeah. So the older ones, Generation X is older than Generation Z and millennials, right? Okay. Because for when he was saying it, I actually was hearing it the opposite way. And I'm like, what, are you saying that the older people didn't have fathers, but these younger ones do, and now they bitter? What?
Uh-uh.
So okay,
No.
no, now we switched it around. Okay, I'm feeling that. I understand that a little better now because I was really confused. Like I was gonna ask you to pause right there and be like, what? What do you mean? If anything, I think the problem's gotten worse over time, not better. And it's like, oh, no, that's what he said too. Okay, I understand. My listening ears, I'm putting them on right now. I promise. I got it.
That's okay because actually, earlier in the show, which if I don't have them, I'm gonna end up playing that. But in the show, it's all put together. The middle part to the end is when he gets into, speaking about this, but he talked a lot in the beginning of being afraid and things like that as far as the trust. You know, he, um, he build up in the story. And I'm
Hmm.
like, but when he got to the middle, I'm like, I got it. The trust, okay, I get that. And then the abandonment, got it now. Thank you so much, Sheep. Thank you for telling me that. Got it now.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's what that is. But I'm going to stop and give a shout out to Gold Professor. I
Woohoo.
want to thank you so much for contributing to the show. Thank you so much. We
Yeah.
appreciate you. You have
Yes, we do.
made She sing. So, She, you already know what to do. Hit it.
Voice of the angels. Voice of the angels.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Hmm.
All right. Let's see. Did you have anything else you wanted to add before we continue?
Yeah, I hear that. I understand that to an extent, but I feel like it's missing an element. You hear the men address a lot, the young ones
Mm-hmm.
address a lot, which is almost like what I've heard them say a lot is that the older generations, right,
Mm-hmm.
they expect, respect and deference, despite the fact that all they give out is pure disrespect and dismissiveness, right? They don't listen to these younger guys. They don't listen to their problems. They don't listen to their experiences. They don't listen to their wisdom that they've had to build, having to, struggle as Black men in this world, in this era, right? And so there's a lot of hard feelings about that on both sides, really, because the older generation feels say that people need to respect them because they're older and they're from a cultural upbringing where you have to respect your elders a little bit more than the younger ones are. And the younger ones are from this I'll respect you if you respect me, age ain't nothing but a number kind of upbringing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's also a major clash there where it's like, no more are these young people willing to wait until older ages to receive the same type of, say, respect and deference and whatever. They think that it should be just a meritocracy overall. I don't care that you're 45, because if you didn't do anything with those 45 years, you're not better than me and you don't have more wisdom to give me, right? If I'm doing better than you and I'm 20 years younger, I should be the one getting the respect and the deference based on what I've accomplished and what I've gone through. So I think the whole value system is just very different as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like, I mean, I hear it. Like I said, I'm not saying that I think sheep is wrong. I just feel like it's a very, if it's there, it's a very small piece of the puzzle. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. But yeah,
Mhm.
I can just imagine, what I'm listening to and saying that um, if the man is not there, you think about it when it comes down to the age group. A lot of these guys that you hear, they're on in the chat rooms and stuff. They're
Mhm.
25, they're 35, and they never mention any male role model or their father a lot of times. So, and then you look at the behavior, just some of the way they may be thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's interesting. I'll put it that way. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why people are joking when they say your YouTube daddy, because what
Mm-hmm.
they're saying is you don't have any male leadership and this is who you follow. And I think it's more than just they're talking about content creator. They're saying you're learning because you didn't have any male role models in your
Mm-hmm.
life. So this is where you're getting your male leadership from, is
Mm-hmm.
online with the content creators.
Oh yeah, that's very true. I mean, I said it earlier this week, and Zeno, who's my little internet cousin, right? He's like, yeah, when I met Ruby, I was like 19, 20, right? We all know of when he came in, he wasn't even legal. He wasn't legal to vote, nothing when he came in here, right? And that's what he was like. He said it. They don't acknowledge me, they don't talk to me, but I'm just basking in their wisdom. I'm basking in their male, role modelness because I don't have any. And I've heard many guys say that, but then, I also feel like I've heard a lot of guys not talk about their experiences. So that way they have the right to slack down women for how they're behaving and how whatever. But if you ask them about their experience, they had a mother and a father, and their father was a leader, and da 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 da. But they know so many other people who weren't like that. And I feel like, if anything, you know, they're exaggerating or it's not addressing the fact that they had fathers because they want to fit in with what they think the general Black experience is, which is we ain't
Hmm.
got a daddy. You're raised by a single mom. There's no male role models. And if you have a life that goes against that, you don't want to let people know that your life goes against that, right? Because gives some woman some credit, right? Even if it's your mama. So I would say,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We have the joke now. Like I said, at this point, a lot of stuff is just funny. So we have the joke of Kevin said, and hey,
hmm
a lot of males are listening to that because that's what they're going by. They're like, okay, let me see if I can make it. And some of these guys are much older. They're not
hmm
teens or anything. Some of these guys are still trying to figure it out at 40 or 50 years old. And
yeah,
that's interesting, but hey, you know,
hmm
a 40-year-old listening to a 50-year-old on how to date and mate, that is extremely interesting because that 40-year-old normally would have a lot of experience in life, but, we're seeing something else. So,
hmm It's even
so
more crazy, Shar, when you see 40-year-olds listening to 28-year-olds and taking 28-year-olds advice. You know what I mean? Like, these are guys who are a lot older than their YouTube daddies. Let's be real, right? Taking their advice. Like, shouldn't
yeah,
you be the one schooling them or, informing them? How do you need to follow this person who is like, very much young enough to be your kid or maybe even grandkid? It is strange.
it is very.
hmm
And since we mentioned a Kevin said, I guess we'll play a Kevin said. Why not?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Kevin said, and 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 Kevin.
Shut up.
Oh my God, Shar, I didn't know
All
there was a,
right.
because that there's the gif of that kid on the chair, right? I love that gif. It's like one of my favorite gifs. I've never seen this whole video. That was amazing. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. Okay, I love it. Love it.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Everybody had to celebrate, not just the
Right?
young boy. Well, man.
Exactly. And not just the black ones either. You didn't see the little white girl in the back clapping her hands.
Okay, true. She happy. She said, "Yeah." Kevin said, and Kevin
Mhm.
said, "Okay." You know, she
Right?
said. But before we continue anymore, I'd like to welcome Psycho Candy. Welcome,
Oh,
and would you like to join in the conversation before we continue a little bit more? I take
Psycho?
that as a yes with the mic off. He's
Yeah, we
trying
can't hear
there.
you. Hmm.
Yeah, he's trying with the mic.
Mm,
That happens sometimes. Unplug your mic and then plug it back in.
hmm.
I get that sometimes myself.
Yeah, me too.
I
I
will
find
say,
it's like, especially with my wireless earbuds, because if you touch them in certain ways, it makes like it turns off the mic, it mutes them. I don't know how to unmute them though. So it'll happen and I'll be on the stream talking and I'm like, oh, no one can hear me. And I have to go and switch it around so that way it like makes it so I can speak again. I don't know. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Actually, I have to go into the settings and switch it to speakerphone and then back to the Bluetooth because I have no idea what to press to make it unmute. No, no, technology wasn't made for me.
It's
But
not
yeah,
your
Psycho,
friend.
not even a little bit. But if it's not working, Psycho, just go out and come back in because sometimes that helps too. It just fixes whatever setting you accidentally pressed. So you might need to do that.
Yeah, cool beans.
Hmm.
Let's see. So let me check the chat and then I'll continue a little bit more. Yeah, that is it. So I'll continue a little bit more and then we come back. I'll stop it and see what he likes to add.
All right.
To heal so we can develop a level of trust. Because to never have trust in anything or anybody is to live a life of fear.
That's the truth of life of fear. Welcome, Vonda. How are you? Welcome.
Hey Shar. Hey Ruby.
Good
Hey
evening, love.
hey Psycho Candy. Um,
Oh,
this is a really, really great topic, Shar. Mental health, I mean, you see a lot of talk about it, but how serious, do people really take it? How serious
Mhm.
do people take their own mental health? Because to be honest, all of us are just one action away from, crazy. It
Mhm.
takes one action and be like, "Oh my gosh, she's crazy. He's crazy. Did you see what he just did?" But, for whatever reason why you don't do that crazy thing, you think about it or your grandmother's voice comes into your head or whatever the case may be, or you may have someone to talk to. I was saying earlier in the chat that, everyone needs someone to talk to,
Yeah.
you know? And not everybody has it, but I do think that as individuals, it's very important that we do the work. Everybody's got a complaint. Everybody has a complaint and a finger to point at. But at
True.
some point, I mean, when does the finger pointing stop? And it's like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? You going to talk about it or you going to be about it? At some point, complaining does absolutely no good at some point.
Yeah. You definitely have to talk to someone. Just think about the movie Castaway.
Hmm.
The man is on an island by himself and he created something that he could talk to represent another human being.
Oh, the soccer ball Wilson, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
it's necessary. Um,
Hmm.
Psycho, can you like to? I'm sure you do have something to add, please, before we continue.
Right. Please.
hi.
I hear it.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hey, Psycho.
Hi, yes. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I, yeah, it's very great to have someone to talk to. I have a counselor that I talk to probably every other week. Um, but in my father's case, he's older. He's 49. He I guess he says that he talks to God. I mean, that's great and all, but I need somebody another human that's gonna listen and, offer some advice back.
Hmm.
Um, but I just think that a lot of people kind of stigmatize like mental illness. You know, my father's kind of one of those people. He'll be quick to point out how somebody's mental or uh, they have something wrong with them mentally. And like you said, Miss Vonda, everyone is an action away from losing.
Complete crazy.
Yeah, and just what you're saying, you said that you're talking about your dad is talking from a religious standpoint, and that's another thing that we can't pick our parents, and if you have a parent that isn't able to really guide you or anything, you still need someone to talk to. So I think that's great that you understand that you're like, okay, I'm not getting what I need. Let me go somewhere where I can get it. And once a week is great. Normally, it depends on where you are,
Mm-hmm.
that it could be daily, 5 times a week. So that's good if you're at the level of you just need 1 time a week to get you going. That's wonderful. And then it's not always it's not always a person in a bad situation. It could just be, I'm in a crunch. I need someone to talk to. I don't know how to get out of this. Who did I talk to? Then it can be something where you just want to ball up in a fetal position and just stay there forever. It just depends on
Mm-hmm.
where you are in life. So that's great that you are able to reach out to someone and talk to them, and they're there for you
Mm-hmm.
weekly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I would add now I was thinking about everything that everyone's saying and what Sheep Stay Sleep was saying. And I'm going to add something because it's a problem that me and Mama Rubes were talking about just last weekend. She was over watching the news show, like on my couch, watching me do the news show. It was funny. Anyway, and so afterwards, we all got off, we're talking and whatever. And so, a lot of uh, her mistakes as a parent happened right at the time where I honestly really desperately needed, her whole open door policy, I'm going to be your best friend kind of mom. I really needed that to still be there in my teen years. And that's exactly when she stopped being a parent. And for like a decade, she was just gone. And it had to do with her signing up for this cultist church, pretty much, right? But
Hmm.
the point is there's a good chance none of that would have happened, or at least not in my lifetime, if she hadn't had me so darn young. And that is a big issue I think the Generation Z's and the millennials are experiencing, right? Is that teen pregnancy, this whole teen pregnancy thing, and these very, very young pregnancies of people who are very young minded. It's not necessarily just about the age, it's that they're kids internally, having kids. And then when they're going through all of the growth and the damage and the turmoil that, say, now in your 30s, people listening now are going through, they also have teenagers. You know what I mean? That they're supposed to be rocks and role models for, and they don't know how to do any of that. And they don't have great coping skills. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have had a kid at 14, 15, 16. And so, they can't pass down healthy coping mechanisms. And so I think it's just kind of perpetuating the same problem where now you've got 3 or 4 generations of people who have no healthy coping skills, right? Have no healthy connection to mental health and, emotions and stuff like that. And yet they are expected to go out there and, either pretend that they're fine or fix the people that they're with or fix everyone else's problems and pretend they don't have problems and da da da. And I know that the men will say that falls most on them. I've heard women say it falls most on them. But, I think that that's a major issue is, we're coming from these generations that never showed us how to cope with anything or how to be strong. They just expected us suddenly at 21 to be strong and to cope. Like, how? What does that mean? We don't know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So, that's the other part. You can have a parent there that is But even though this was generally of men, you could have the dad there, but he's not functional. That can
Mm-hmm.
happen. But who do you
Mm-hmm.
turn to? So yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. You wanted to add anything else, Vonda, before I play a little bit more?
No, Shar, go ahead and play a little bit more. I want to hear what he has to say.
Okay.
Why do you think there's so many black men on so much goddamn drugs? Because they're trying to fight the fear and the paranoia. They're in a constant state of fear. Why? Because they're not sure of themselves, because they don't trust themselves. They don't trust themselves. They've been told that they're not able to do shit right. So how could you trust in your decision making? How? It's not going to work. Shout out to China for becoming a member. I appreciate you, love. Appreciate you. Shout out to Larry Vaughn. Appreciate you, my brother. Salute. Shout out to Taj Craziest. Appreciate you, mamas. I appreciate that super sticker. Shout out to my brother, the Book of Rona. He said far too many ignored their shared foresight and rebuked genuine fellowship, which is why their credibility is forbearance and this space is in foreclosure. Yes, sir. That's a fact, my brother. Salute to my brother, the Book of Rona, my day one brother. This is why. This is why. See, because you can't properly provide as a man if you're constantly in fear. Let me repeat that. You cannot properly provide, which is provision, which is one of the 4 pillars of being a man. You cannot properly provide if you're in a constant state of fear. You can't. You cannot. Now, you can go out and provide, pay the bills and, make sure it's food in the house and all of that. But how can you properly provide foresight for yourself and for your family? How can you teach your children anything in a state of fear? How could you show them anything if you're in a constant state of fear, especially other black men? How you going to raise your sons? You're always in a state of paranoia. Think about this.
What I'm gonna do, Vonda, because we're wow, we've been live for a minute. I don't know if the guests are coming or not, but what I'll do, I will rewind it back to the earlier part so it can connect to where he is now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I will carry the rest of the show. Did you have anything to say before I do that?
No, go right ahead.
I do.
Okay.
Is anyone surprised? No.
No.
Okay, so
Mm-mm.
um, there's a couple things. So, he addressed the fact that, men can't be providers if they're functioning in a state of fear, right? The same thing as a state of scarcity, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's not like a slapping men down and saying men somehow you're inferior to women who can pour from an empty cup. No, no one can pour from an empty cup. It's literally impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right. And so how do you provide or protect when you're running around scared and in a constant state of scarcity and just an overwhelming dark cloud, fear of failure, whatever. And that's why you see so much of this false bravado. And this is why you see so many of these guys who can only do the what Kevin said, what Kevin said, what Kevin said. And the second you deviate from what Kevin said, they're just start coming at you with a butcher knife, right? Because it's so threatening to them. They finally found something that seems to validate their struggle and give them some kind of thing to pursue or to hang their hat on. And if you challenge that, it's challenging this. It's like they're so delicately safe right now that they can't critically think or think outside the box, because otherwise they're just back left with the fear, right? And back left with the scarcity and with the
Hmm.
lacking. So I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And you said Kevin said, so,
I
you know,
did.
I got to do it. I got to do
Mhm.
it. It's your fault. Here goes.
Kevin said, and 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 Kevin. And what about Kevin? And Kevin doing good work. And Kevin, 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 and Kevin.
That was my favorite cut. I think it's because and Kevin do good work.
Good
What
work.
about my work, Char? What about my work? Like that was amazing. I don't know. Sorry.
That is so funny.
Oh my goodness.
So great. And then the fact that the work is leafed in there, like you better work, right? Like this. Oh man, classic, amazing. Right, Mike V? I agree. It is absolutely one of the most hilarious things I have seen. All actually, I think it is standalone, except for the string last week. You're gonna have to watch last week to see what I'm talking about. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Mhm.
Okay, well, we got, so I guess I said I should ask, does Kevin say anything that you all think is of use, and that any other content creators say something similar along the line?
No, no, Shar, don't
Um,
answer. No, 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 don't answer. Snuggles, you asked for the link. Shar, please give Snuggles the link. If you
sure.
come up here, Snuggles, if you come up here, we will answer that question. Everyone will stop and answer just your question. That we will do it if you hit that link and come up on this panel, because everyone has been waiting for you to hit a link that you ask us to drop all over the space, all over, and you never do. So if you hit the link and you come up, we'll answer the question. Let's do that.
Okay, sounds good to
Mhm.
me. And
Okay.
I will scroll back and see if I can find the beginning where to start after he does the greetings and everything. And then I'd already written, I said hello to Snuggles because he didn't say hello first. So I
Mhm.
said, hey, what about a hello? So there's the
Oh
link
wait,
for you.
Snuggles
And
answered you. I don't think I've ever seen Snuggles answer someone back. Snuggles must extra like you, right?
oh,
Snuggles
okay.
is really, Snuggles must really like you and your channel, because I've said lots of stuff to Snuggles. Snuggles never responds to me, and now look, responding to you. Hello, young lady. Wonderful to meet your acquaintance. And then classic Ruby, you so rude. I never get Snuggles. I'm proud of you. Are you breaking out of your shell, Snuggles? Are you? Are you? Sorry, I had to say it.
Oh.
Hmm.
Yeah, you all have history, as they say.
Not bad history. It's just something
Yeah.
Snuggles has been around forever. Does anyone know Snuggles is male or female, or what their voice sounds like, or anything about Snuggles? Not really.
No, but I
No.
would say male.
Yeah, that's what I think too. But then I think Bernard Riley said that Snuggles is female. I don't know, right? So I'm like, just break all the tension, break all the questions. Just come up here, ask your question. We will answer you, Snuggles. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna see.
Mhm.
Let's see. Let me scroll. Let me check where we are here.
Shout out to my man Bob in the.
Yep, still shouting out. Um, I don't know why that did that. Let's try 18.
See, and I'm pretty sure back in those times, just like now, they had things to distract us. As I was saying, think about growing up in a path of times. Picture growing up in a time where freedom fighting was popular. Freedom fighting was the thing to do, the thing to become. No matter how rich you've got, no matter how successful you may have became, freedom fighting was always the objective. Now, picture growing up as a child back in those times, and you had to watch the rise and fall of the Black Panther Party. You had to watch and fall the rise of the Nation of Islam. And for them to be where they are now, which is just basically another religious organization that people join, at one point was solid and was very strong and made a lot of moves in the communities. Just imagine being a kid in this time, in those times. See? And I'm pretty sure back in those times, just like now, they had things to distract us. So you don't really pay attention or understand what you're actually looking at. See? What we're watching, what you guys are seeing and witnessing is the same thing. You are witnessing modern day men, modern day Black men getting tricked out of their spot. You're witnessing modern day Black men lose their influence. You are witnessing modern day Black men and their message being destroyed. See, I look at this shit a whole nother way. Y'all may look at it as some commercialized hustle. I look at it a totally different way. See, because I know how the so-called higher ups look at it, and how all of the so-called higher ups view Black male organizations. You see? You have to understand this. And I've spoken on this a lot since I've been here. Every time you dudes got on some bullshit, I came back and I made sure I reminded y'all that we were being watched. See, I think y'all forgot that. See, you forgot that. You've forgotten that we're going to be penalized and scrutinized more than any other men. More than any other men who get together for their own sake, for their own agency, we're going to be penalized the worst. They're going to make an example out of us because Black men tried to get their shit together as a collective. This is why we were supposed to have system, order, and structure. This is why there was supposed to be some organization around here. There's supposed to be some rules, some bylaws. There was supposed to be a system set up so things could run efficiently. You see? So we're not where we are currently as a group. See, because let me explain something to you men. There's always going to be opposition or opposing forces against black men when they try to fucking unite. And I think y'all forgot that shit. Y'all got real comfortable just sitting back getting paid to act like you for black male unification. You for black male agency. Y'all sat back and got comfortable just making the money being goddamn prosperity preachers. Because that's what you niggas were. That's what you niggas are. That's what you are. That's why now that this shit is under fire, you run because you're a prosperity preacher. Because you didn't understand what you actually was doing. See, because black men uniting is some dangerous shit. Why do you think everyone pay attention? Why do you think the world pays attention when black men decide to stand up and to speak for one another and to defend one another and to stand shoulder to shoulder with one another? Why do you think the world pays attention? Y'all forgot that. Y'all forgot that. See, because y'all forgot the key element to unity. The key element to unifying is trust. Something that we don't have for ourselves as black men. We don't trust ourselves enough. And when I say ourselves, I don't mean between me and you. I don't just mean that. We don't trust ourselves. We don't trust ourselves enough to stay on one accord.
See, I'm not a man, so I would have never thought of that or even known that. And that's why I said if you go back to the beginning, it builds up to where he was. And I'm sure a lot of men listening to it identify with what he's saying because they're men. But I said, I can get that. I see where he's coming from as he build up into, the throughout the stream.
Mm-hmm. I get that. Yeah. It just reminded me, what everything he was saying just reminded me of. I know. I'm saying it again, y'all. I am, right? But when Kevin said, no, for real, he brings up The Island, the TV show, right, where they strand a bunch of men on one island and a bunch of women on the other, right? Mm-hmm. And then see how they fare, basically, if they're going to survive or not. And he really likes to bring up the women's failures, right? And the way he paints the men is, like they didn't have the exact same failures. They had a majority of the same failures and the same issues and a bunch of stuff like that. I'm watching the season he refers to all the time because I thought it was important for me to be able to confirm or deny. It didn't sound plausible, but I was like, let me see it. And one of the things that comes up on the men's island, okay, and it just so happens to be a black man, a young black man who's doing this, okay? So this man's smart. He doesn't do nothing on day one, okay? But then they're having trouble starting the fire, And he comes up with, well, if I take these glasses and I, kind of angle with the sun, it'll burn and start a fire. Okay. So he starts the fire on day one. Took him like 10 seconds of energy. Then he doesn't do anything for weeks. And to the point where people are noticing he spends most of his time, okay, washing his feet, brushing his feet off, brushing his teeth, and doing nothing at all. And then just living off of what everyone else is doing. So they get mad at him, right? And then just when you think they're going to throw this dude off the island, okay, now they catch a crocodile. People are scared to kill the crocodile. All 5 other guys jump on the crocodile to hold it still. And he comes in after they're holding the crocodile still and stabs the crocodile in the head. So now he's the one who killed their food. And finally, he's the savior. He saved the day again, right? And then now you have this one guy. Honestly, he's the best guy on the island. And he's getting frustrated overall with the fact that no one's doing anything except for him. If it wasn't for him going out and fishing every day, they'd all starve to death. Right? And so he says, guys, forget it. I'm not fishing no more, right? Y'all gonna have to do you. And the black guy, right, the young black guy goes, I think he's being really selfish, and you can't be selfish when you're in something like this. You have to work as a team. Okay? Now, I had to tell you the whole thing so you understood where I was going with this, right? But he really thought it was selfish of this guy to say, I'm not going to waste all of my energy and resources feeding y'all. When I come back, there's not water for me. Y'all couldn't go get a coconut. Y'all are just sitting around, lying around on the beach and going swimming, right? And so, but that's the way he saw it. He really saw it as that guy's being selfish for saying, you guys feed me tomorrow for a change. Right? This is the kid who did nothing for 2 weeks, except for 2 market things. But he was intelligent. He's smart. He chose things that he's going to be remembered. It's going to carry him for a few days. It's going to give him a little, a boost for a few days. You can't say nothing to him. Without him, you wouldn't have a fire, right? Without him, you wouldn't have the crocodile.
Yeah.
Right. So he's a smart kid, but that's what I think this is just reminding me of. It's like there's this detachment between, I think, what people are really doing, what they're putting out in the world, how hard they're really working, right? Versus the reality of it. And I think that they don't necessarily see the difference between these two things. And then they're really upset and frustrated that all their hard work and dedication isn't being rewarded, when they don't really realize that what they're doing isn't actually hard work and dedication. And then they feel hard done by when someone doesn't go and fish on the island for them. They think that person's being really selfish, and they don't see the problem with that statement. You see what I'm saying? I feel like it's a very spoiled generation or two, right? These people who are, let's say, under 40, we're just very spoiled and lazy and entitled. That's what it is.
And there's that level of delusion, because he's very delusional now, because the other dude won't go out and fish. He's like, what? I can't believe it. Hello? How could you not fish for us? But, to his credit, he's like, I slayed, the crocodile, I gave you fire, I'm a god, how dare you not, and you see that a lot in people. It's a lot of one-sidedness, and I'm like, are they, purposely not seeing it, or that is just really their level? That's as far as they go. They don't go any further than that. Does he really believe what he said? This guy is selfish because he won't fish for us. I don't understand that.
Right.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, you said Kevin said. I know.
I did.
All right. Praise him.
Kevin said, and 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 Kevin. And what about Kevin? And Kevin doing good work. And Kevin, 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 and Kevin.
Shut up.
Okay. You tell me twice.
Right?
All right. Play some more.
Just listen to these guys when you start speaking about unification in the space. You always hear guys find a reason why it won't work, why it never will work, why we shouldn't even think about this. These are guys who don't trust themselves enough to hold the line. So this is why they totally speak against unification amongst black men. Oh, it won't work. Oh, black men are not a monolith. You're saying this because you don't want to be held accountable for your actions. And this is what we see and have been seeing for years here. Men who run around like rabid dogs, who just keep dumb shit and foolishness going 24 hours, 7 days a week, that they're on fucking YouTube. And they do this shit in the name of this is what black men want. No, black men don't want dumb shit. No, black men don't want drama. Black men want help. See, this is what you niggas forgot around here. You forgot that there's still black men coming here for help. There's still black men who are out here looking for men who's on the same time as them. And the reason why y'all turned y'all back is because you don't have it in you. You don't have it in you. And see, now the jig is up. You can't hide no more. You can't hide behind a pill. You can't hide behind an ideology. You can't hide behind being alpha. You can't hide behind being an educated lame. You can't hide behind being Pookie and Ray Ray. You can't hide behind none of that shit no more. You can't hide behind the goddamn audience and your donations. You can't hide behind it no more. Everyone sees exactly who you dudes are. They see who you are. And what's evident to me is you don't trust yourself. You don't believe in yourself enough. And you never have. See, y'all dudes are surprised that this space has got the recognition that it has. Y'all never thought it'll never get this big. This is why y'all don't have no control of it. This is why y'all lost control. Because you never thought it would get this big. Because you lack foresight. You lack foresight. A lot of you dudes lack foresight. Y'all are short-sighted men. Y'all are nearsighted. You can't foresee nothing. You can't foresee a problem, or you can't foresee success. And the reason why y'all foresight was fucked up because y'all was just here to hustle men. And y'all were here to hustle us because you didn't trust that you were good enough at what you were doing.
Brother was just warming up. I'm telling you, he was warming up. Well, I am glad that the author of the video has arrived in the
Yes.
Woo!
Yes.
Welcome everyone. Sheep Stay Sleep TV, aka DS1. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey,
Sheepsy.
ladies, what's going on?
How are you?
Hello
Good
there.
evening. Glad you can make it.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we had you up here preaching, and I'm like, I'm talking to the audience, but we had one guy to come up to say that he was getting some help mentally because his father is not able to give him, what he needs. And then I'm like, okay, well, We just have to play the video and talk among ourselves. But I
Mhm.
am so glad you made it. Let's see. Well, let's see. We're in here for a while, but Ruby, did you have a question? Because we started in the middle and then we
Mm.
went back to the beginning. Did you have a question of anything with the? Let's see. What we start off with? Trust, trust, and what was the other thing?
I'm gonna need a second to formulate. I wasn't even like holding on to it to like be like, oh, I'm gonna save it for later. Um, so I'm gonna have to actually think on it again.
Yeah, no worries. I was just trying to think about it, so we could start there. But let's see, where will we start? You want to introduce yourself, DS1?
Well, I want to say hello to y'all first of all. I appreciate the review. Shout out to everybody in the chat, and I'm just chilling tonight. Just came through for a little minute. I saw the email. My apologies, I saw the email late, but
Okay, no worries, no worries. But let's see. I mentioned to the audience earlier that your stream today answered the
Mhm.
question that I had for a while.
mhm,
Um, I can have experience with men and certain things, but they don't really talk sometimes when it comes down to something they're dealing with. So there
mhm,
are questions I've always had. Even men in the space, just listening to them talk, no one, really talks about any type of needing some help.
mhm,
And the closest you get to that is some of the insults you see people say, your YouTube daddy. And I get that now because what that means is you don't have a male role model. So this content creator is where you get your male role model from, your information from.
mhm,
And I'm like, okay, wow. But with the stream, when you talked about the trust, that was
mhm,
the beginning. I'm like, okay, I see where he's coming from. He's talking about trust. Okay, I get that. And then the second thing, let me see if I can even scroll back because it was two things. After you mentioned trust, what was that second word? Did it start with a D if anyone knows? Trust and abandonment. That's what it was. When you said that, I said, I get it now. I get it. I forgot
mhm,
about that because a lot of the younger guys in the space, usually around 25 to maybe 35 or 40, those
mhm,
guys, I knew something was different about them. There are some that just kind of complain about the coochie all the time, but there were guys that didn't seem stable. So the men, um, more than like their fathers or whatever, they abandon them. And I'm like, I get it. He just answered the questions that I had in my mind. So this was a very powerful, in my opinion, stream today. So I made sure I shared it
thank
um, in several places and told people about it and even shared it with the audience here. So I'm hoping that, the people that watch it tonight or even later, they, really get something out of it and can share it with others because you don't hear men talk about mental health like this. Not to me. I mean, this is like a confession. This is something where I'm thinking you'll step outside and someone want to beat you up. Man, why you say that? Why you tell off on
you.
us? He ain't supposed to say
Yeah,
that, man.
yeah. I mean, for the most part, I always been that guy in the space anyway. I always been a guy to, you know, um, lift the veil of a lot of
Hmm.
things that we try to hide as men. And it's just that I always felt like that was important because in my family, a lot of the men suffer from the same things.
Hmm.
And we've suffered as a family because we've had no outlets ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
because for the most part, a lot of us was my family, especially on my mother's side, is pretty much female dominated. A lot of the
Okay.
guys, a lot of the men, the fathers and stuff like that, they were gone, because they was out in the streets, so they was in jail, they was going through a lot of stuff on their own. So a lot of my uncles suffer from mental health, you know,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's something that I've learned over the years, because now that my uncles are actually getting older, it's starting to kick in, you know,
Okay.
and it just simply comes from never having an outlet, never feeling comfortable or trusting anyone enough to speak in that way. And what a lot of these men don't want to admit is that trust that you have to get to speak that way, that
Mm-hmm.
candidly. You have to have the privacy of your dad. And a
Okay.
lot of these guys in this space don't want to admit that they have a father issue.
Mm.
They want to think that they can man their way through this shit, but you got to understand, if that first man is not there, your life is crippled in a lot of ways. And a
Okay.
lot of these guys think that they can go out and accomplish everything in the world and still be a man. No, that don't make you a man. Just because you go get a degree, just because you go make all of this money, and you could pay all of the bills and all of that, that's never gonna make you feel like a man. And none of
Mm.
these, and the majority of these men around here don't feel like men. That's why it's they have to prove they're boss. They have to prove they're getting money. They got to prove this to other men. That's how you could
Mm.
tell that there's a missing link there. If you grew up with a proper male figure, he'll tell you that that's not acting like a man. You actually acting like a woman. Women peacock, not men.
Oh,
Women
okay.
are supposed to peacock. Women are supposed to say, "Look at my shoes, look at my hair." That's for women. That is why men actually beautify their women, so they can do that. So they
Mm.
can show off. Look what my husband bought me. Look what my man got me. Look at my new bag my man got me. That's for y'all. That's not supposed to be for us.
All
So when you
right.
see guys doing this,
Mm.
on a constant basis, it's the lack of that male camaraderie. Because if you around a man gonna tell you, yo, cut that out. That's not what we do over here. Shh, stop talking so much.
Mm.
Stop speaking on that man. That's the type of shit my dad used to do with me. We outside, and I'm speaking on something I see. He'd be like, "Hey, be quiet. Don't be speaking on that. That ain't got nothing to do with you. Mind your business. Stop speaking on other men." But all of these things that I'm saying, you see going on around here.
Okay. Well, I'm
Can I
gonna
ask a question?
let me interrupt you just 1 second. I want to give
Hmm.
the shout out so I don't forget.
Hmm.
Um, I want to shout out and thank you, Sheep, for your donation to the channel, and also Snuggle668.
Hmm.
What we have is Sheed. He is our resident singer. He sings for everyone that supports the channel. So Sheed, want you to hit it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Voice of the
you.
angels.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so you go ahead and ask your question, Ruby. Sorry.
Okay. Actually, I have two questions. So the first question is, um, because I don't disagree with what you're saying, all of the research supports it, but the thing that I find interesting is that in this space, at least, you will see guys, who demonstrate the exact same issues and failures of emotional regulation and self-control and critical thinking and whatnot. But if you pry in and find out about their lives, you find out no, they had very active fathers and male role models in their lives, right? So they actually aren't, part of the fatherless generation, even while they're part of the fatherless generation, because they had fathers, they had those male role models too. So why do you think that we're not seeing a huge difference in those guys who are in this space and had fathers?
Um, a lot of times, a lot of times, a lot of guys had a father, but that don't mean they learned nothing from their dads. A lot of guys just had dads in the house. That don't mean that they were actually active. They were actually teaching anything or instilling anything in them. They were just there, and a lot of these guys had bad relationships with their dads. They didn't get along with their dads, and they hold resentment because of it. A lot of these guys, blame their dads for their families being broken up because maybe their dad probably cheated on their mom and that caused a divorce and that broke up their family.
Mm-hmm.
So they hold that resentment against their father. And this is why I did a show. This was a little while ago, telling guys, you know, um, to forgive their fathers. If your father is, because I just lost my father, um, New Year's Eve.
Condolences. Sorry
Oh,
to hear that.
sorry to
Thank
hear
you.
that.
And
Condolences.
thank you. And just coming back when I first came back and started doing shows again on my channel, I was letting brothers know, you know, reconcile and heal that relationship with your father because, you know, out of all my friends, I was one of my friends that had my dad. A lot of my friends didn't have their dads. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, out of all my friends, I'm the first one to lose my father. All my
Mm-hmm.
friends still have their dads. None of their dads are dead. So I was telling brothers, like I told my friends at my father's funeral, to make up with your father. Because when he's not here anymore, your life is gonna change. You're gonna feel different about yourself. You're gonna look at the world different because your original protector is no longer there. Your original advisor is no longer there. You have to, you are the conductor and the director on your own now. It's just you and God now,
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these guys, they've never had that, and they're 35, 40 years old. They've never had that from their dads. So this is why you still see the behavior, even though they dads may have grew up in the house.
May
It's
I
the
ask
Mm-hmm.
you a
it's the
question?
resentment factor.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go
Um,
ahead, Brandon.
so with that being said, I mean, Ruby gave an example of, men who did have their fathers in the home. And we've been listening to your earlier stream about men who were abandoned and they're still in the same spot. Um, do you feel like it has anything to do with the culture of men feeling like they don't need help or they don't want to get help or it's weak to, get help and maybe that should change?
Most definitely. Most definitely. That is one of the main reasons why, I teach what I teach on my channel because
Mhm.
I want to let brothers know that, you know, amongst black men, we have to make that normal for us to have these types of conversations, to have these in-depth, deep conversations instead of just having the barbershop talk. See, because a lot of times the barbershop talk is masked to not have the real conversations that the brothers really want to have.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You know, a lot of brothers that sit there and kick the Willy Bobo all day because they really don't want to talk about the shit they're going through at home with their wives, what they're going through at home with their children. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about how their mother on their deathbed and she dying. And growing up his whole life, he never had a good relationship with his mother, and she dying, and he don't know how to fix that now. See, we don't want to have these conversations, so we talk about who won the game last night.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So and we use those things, those vices, as a way to block personal development. That's why, you know, I don't really watch sports no more. I haven't watched sports in years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my lady, she always be like, yo, you don't want to watch football no more? You don't watch the NBA finals. I don't watch none of that stuff. I don't keep up with it no more because I realize what it is. It's really a distraction for men. It's a way to keep men sleep and actual slaves to the culture. You know, because as you said, it's in the culture for men to not feel. But what is but we use things like sports and holidays and beer and all of that shit to numb us. We use that to numb us so we don't feel. So that gives us a reason not to feel. That gives us a reason not to have the conversation. Man, I don't want to hear that the game on. You know, so it's those types of things. So yeah, it is in the culture, but of course, black men are usually, you know, the butt of everything. So we, you know, as a group of men, we have to make having these types of conversations normal and comfortable for each other.
Okay. Ken Sean, welcome to the panel. Would you like to speak? And then we're going to play some more of the video.
Good evening.
Hey, Kishan.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for the invite.
Sure.
And awesome topic once again tonight. I would just like to say there's three main parts, and I'll probably get into it, you know, as we enjoy this live stream. But three of the main parts for mental health for men, from, you know, I've actually done studies on this, and I'm a student right now in neuroscience at ICANN Institute. So this is important for me in this space to analyze and help brothers, particularly fatherless young men. We have been lied to that we are sexual warriors, or our penis somehow can save worlds. And the tunnel to incel. So I'll just say there are the three main points that I can break down as we go. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll play some more of the video, and then we'll stop it and have a conversation. Okay.
You didn't trust that. You didn't lean on your internal value as a man. You niggas thought that having good character and standing on principle will not pay you. See, I told y'all this when y'all was running around talking shit about me. Oh, DS1 don't want us to get money. DS1 want us to be broke. Oh, DS1, he just talking about internal values. You see what all that shit got y'all? Now y'all doubling back around talking about Kevin Samuels not having any morals. But when I was telling men to have morals in the space, y'all was saying I wanted niggas to be broke. But
Yeah, he said Kevin Samuels, so you know what time it is. You know, and it's not my fault. Even though it's a video, he still said it. So
Right? Blame yourself, sheep.
Kevin said, and 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 Kevin. And what about Kevin? And Kevin doing good work. And Kevin, and Kevin, and Kevin, and Kevin, and Kevin, and Kevin.
Shut up.
All right. And we'll continue.
Then when Kevin Samuels leave y'all weak ass niggas and go get a bag, now he need to have morals. Now Kevin left his brothers. But when I was saying we needed to be a brotherhood, it was no, you just trying to lean on niggas. You just mad because you broke. Oh, that's that broke nigga talk. Oh, that's that poor righteous teacher shit. Now y'all are trying to hold Kevin Samuels and Obsidian to the same standards. How fucking ironic. Now you want to talk about how grimy dudes are, how dudes stole from you. Really? So now we talking about the character of men all of a sudden. Now all of a sudden, internal value matters to you niggas, right? Why would something that you don't possess, but why would you try to hold a man up into having morals and principles when y'all was the same niggas who said morals and principles is for broke niggas? This is what y'all niggas said. That's broke nigga talk, having morals and principles. That shit change once you get some money. Isn't that what you niggas said out your mouth? Isn't that what y'all said? Oh, but now we come back around to men being men, which is to have internal value. Because as a man, all you got in this world is your balls and your word. See, you don't die with none of this other shit. You don't die with polo, nigga. You don't die with polo. You don't die with none of this name brand shit. What people you remember you for when you die is your word, your character. Were you a man of principle? But y'all want to hold Kevin Samuels to be a man of principle. Why? Because he took all y'all ways to getting money? No, he didn't. Believe in yourself. Trust in yourself. You don't have to sell out. But see, a lot of y'all are mad because y'all wanted y'all opportunity to sell out because you don't trust in yourself. You don't trust that you could make it without giving up your ass. You don't trust in yourself without having to give up and sacrifice your brother, sacrifice your team, just for likes and views, just so you could go get an interview, just so you could keep certain connections with other people. And because that person may not like somebody that you cool with, you got to cut those ties because you want to do business. See, this is what you niggas fell victim to. Which is why I've always said we got to heal before we build. Because this is what happens with broke niggas. The majority of black men are broke. I don't give a fuck what y'all get on here and on YouTube and say. The stats are the stats. The facts are the facts.
Now, come on, DS1. You haven't heard that everybody is six figures on YouTube? You didn't know that?
Six-figure jiggles. Yes.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah. We're six figures over here. You didn't know that?
Everybody is not six figures. That is just not the case.
It's weird because 5 years ago, everybody was earning under 50K and mad that women expected anything different. And then, you fast forward 5 years and now everybody's earning way over six figures. Everybody's high value. Everybody. The same.
Yeah. He didn't get the memo. We have to tell him over here what's going on.
kind of education sheep. You see what I'm saying? No, but
It became the new BBL. Everybody had one. Everybody had one.
That's right.
but you know what? I have a question. I want to bring up, since you said BBL. It actually reminded me of the question I had about you using sheep peacocking. Um, because the term peacocking is actually really about the male of whatever species, right? Because even if you go to peacocks, it's the men who are beautiful blues and greens and colorful, right? And peahens are drab and brown. And you go to most species, and the thing that's the big adornment, lions with their huge manes, whatever, tends to be with the male of the gender or of the species. So I thought it was interesting that you were saying, well, no, peacocking is what women are supposed to do. But if you look in human history, a lot of human history actually it was exactly the opposite way. Whereas in men were really the ones peacocking, and they were adding to their headdresses and garb and whatever to make themselves even more ostentatious and bright and colorful and standoutish and scarification and all of that. So I guess my question is, given human history, given that, do you think that maybe there's an issue with men not trusting themselves or feeling confident in themselves because maybe culturally these days on a social level, we are socially saying things that they might be drawn to are wrong, even though they kind of evolved to be drawn to these things, like peacocking?
Yeah, what I'm gonna say is it has always, since I was young. I'm gonna speak for myself. Since I was a little boy, acting that way has always been promoted, even through cartoons, um, through the music, through movies. Acting cocky in that machismo type of way is always been promoted to men, because that's just a representation of one part of the male ego. That's all that it is. But what what it actually is supposed to do is you're actually supposed to use that energy as a man to actually propel yourself into other places that is supposed to grant you positive results in your life. Like you're supposed to use your ego when you're in a boardroom and you're trying to sell yourself to these people or sell your idea to these people. That's what you're supposed to use that stuff for. You're not supposed to use it as a weapon to basically step on another man. And the reason why I say it's supposed to be for women is because that's just my opinion, because what I see dudes do is basically what I grew up seeing my mother and her homegirls and stuff do, as far as, who I'm ain't nobody gonna look better than us tonight, and stuff like that. That's why I say, women are supposed to do it. But in terms of the correct definition, a lot of guys they're using it wrong. They're weaponizing it in a wrong way. They're supposed to use their egos to actually grant them positive results. It's supposed to put you around much more powerful people, because you actually can use your ego as a strategy for you to be able to. You may not be as educated as the next guy, but if you come in there and you show these people you know what you're talking about, and you make it believable, you can sell them on whatever. You don't have to have the education. You don't have to have the suit. You don't have to have any of that. You can just go in there and use your ego and sell yourself. That is what your ego is actually supposed to be for. But a lot of us as black men, what we do is we use it to shit on one another. And that's where when I was young, I grew up seeing women do that. My shoes is
Okay.
better than yours. You must be broke. Your man must be broke. Look at your coat. You know, I grew up seeing women do that. I never thought that was cool for guys to do, because that was never promoted by the men in my family. That was never nothing cool.
Mm, okay. I hear you.
Yeah, I get what you were talking about because it is the show off thing. Look at this. I got this. Look at this. I get exactly what you're saying. Ken Sean, did you have anything before we continue?
Yes, and I appreciate the brother breaking down the analogies. And one of the things of the bravado of man and masculinity, and the lie that they say it is the bravado on dressing with slack pants, no character, no high quality character for certain. You have to be like, oh, it's like, it's almost like you're doing something for the cameras, but really, it has to do with how empty you are inside. And this is, because of the lack of fathers, and that's one of the biggest crises that we are dealing with, and what it leads to. So it leads to emotional traits. Not that men not supposed to have those traits, but like the brother just said, when we take on the aunt, the sister, the mummy, and then no father is there, now my emotion would want me to dress the best. It would lead my ego to doing things to overexert myself. My penis game may not be good because I don't know how to have sex, but yet I'm talking like I'm big penis. And this is the lie that fatherless boys have been, troped, and telling us not to cry when we are 3 years old. You're a man up. And all of these things are very damaging uh, in terms of the tunnel down to incel, 40-year virgin, not knowing how to approach women, which can lead to other disastrous things. But I'll let you continue to play the video.
All right,
Mm,
here we go.
So of course you're gonna have niggas sacrificing niggas. You're gonna have niggas throwing niggas under the bus. But all of this comes from the lack of trust in oneself, the lack of belief in oneself. You don't believe in your skills enough. You think you got to do some extra shit. You think you got to do some extra shit. You got to go play politics. You got to go play the game and make your brothers a victim just so you can have something. You're mad because you wanted to be the gatekeeper of the space. All of this bullshit that men shouldn't take part in, that masculine men don't take part in. This is bullshit. You know why? Because at the end of all of this, as a group, black men remain stagnant. And this is what y'all don't get. This is what y'all don't get. Y'all don't get it. Y'all don't get it. We remain stagnant as a group of men. Because what? Because we choose not to trust in ourselves. We don't trust ourselves so much that we got to go deal with everybody else. We got to go to everybody else to deal with our problems. We got to compare ourselves to everybody else to deal with our problems, because we don't trust in ourselves that we can actually fix them. This is why you niggas gave up your space. and you sacrifice the men who were here and put in work, and you put us in a line of fire. This is why you niggas did that, because you don't trust in yourself. Y'all are still like that little boy who's afraid of the bully, and you're scared to swing back because you're afraid to take a punch. You're afraid to get hit, so you don't swing. You're afraid to get hit. That's why you don't swing. See, when it was time to swing around this space, you niggas put your hands in your pockets. You see? Every time it was time to swing, you niggas put your hands in your pockets. You see? And this is why there's a popular consensus around the world, amongst people around the world, that black men can't run shit. This is why you hear this. Because as a collective and as individuals, black men don't trust themselves.
May I comment on that?
And when I say this, I'm speaking about myself too.
My brother, you spoke some truth right there real quick. So the black male wealth is 0.9%, and that's by blackdemographics.com. And the black woman's wealth is 0.07%. So even though women are graduating on a higher scale, they're in debt, upwards of $400,000 to $1 million in school debt. So you have the working class men who are probably not going to college as much, so they're working to as a driver, truck driver, whatever, versus the female who are graduating more, but they are really in big time debt. We don't have any wealth. So why is that important? In this kind of time and in this environment, it's said that you need to have something to the table if you're going to speak. And that's why I think it's important that we have to identify who are leaders, not who have big pockets, because leadership you just can't. Leaders have to be that's just who they are. And some leaders just don't lead with money. Some leaders, in fact, lead with everyone else in the environment having the confidence that they have, he or she.
So when you mention a table, are you talking about Kevin Samuels? Yeah. No.
He knows that's where he got it from. That's where they're all getting. I mean, they could theoretically,
table?
right?
I'm
Go
sorry.
look it up. But did you get that information about the wealth that black men versus black women have? Did you get that from Kevin Samuels? That's what Char wants to know. That's what Kevin said.
Blackdemographics.com.
Well, that's where. But who told you?
About that
Oh,
table.
me and Kay
Oh.
from Latif was talking about that, and we researched that ourselves. Yeah.
No, Char. See, Char was really hoping for another Kevin said moment.
Well, I'm just listening, I'm hearing some key phrases, table. I ain't heard table since, Kevin says, I just asked,
It's a fair question. It's a fair question. I will say this. I mean, ultimately, and I agree with that to an extent. I think that a lot of times people, when we talk about some of these facts and figures, we do not understand the difference between, say, mean and median. And then we will use those terms interchangeably when comparing men to women or between races and whatever. And it makes it, for me at least, it's a little bit sketchy. Now, I think whether we're looking at mean or median, yes, obviously the black man has, we'll say, more wealth than the black woman. But then if we're looking at it just from forget all of these other fancy things, let's not compare black men and black women. Let's compare black people to every other race, especially white people. And then you can see that that so-called wealth, on average, what, $10,000 of wealth, right? On average, versus the white woman's average wealth of 80,000, right? And the white man's 80,000, right? I mean, can we really speak on that as though it's like wealth and significant, like 10,000 versus 80,000? I
Actually,
mean,
the white male is on average 51,000,
it says
and
78,000 right here.
so the white woman is 11,000 below him. But that would the
Opposite.
environment that we're in, if you're gonna have a voice or want to make a change in the environment, we men, so-called, have to have the money if we're wanting to make a change, or like the brother said, you're not stepping up and then you're selling out, or you're doing business because you don't like that one and this person doesn't like the other, when we really should be yearning for leadership. Hmm.
So if you check the link that I just posted, it says right there, single black men's median wealth was $10,100 compared to single black women's median wealth of $1,700. Single white women have slightly higher median wealth levels than single white men. Single white women's wealth is estimated at $81,200 compared to single white men's at $78,200. And that's why I said 80,000 for both of them. They're so close to 80,000, might as well just round them both off. And that's why I said when we're comparing 10,000 to 80,000, right? It's like an eighth small, like it's not wealth, right? And so it's higher than, you know what, it's 8 to 10 times higher than what the black woman's wealth is, absolutely. But either way, I'm gonna say that looking at both statistics, we're just generally failing. It's on both
You're
sides.
right,
It's not
because
wealth.
if you look at 40 million black, 23 are you guys. So it's more of you guys than us male. And so with 40 million black people entirely from Canada to Cuba, wealth is 0.9%. Black women's wealth is 0.07. So we even though we have our own movie studio in Minneapolis, we're actually gonna start making our own media news channel and move in that direction to where Black media can really show how we can build. But how far are we away from that? And where is the wealth to begin with? Hmm.
I don't know. Gonna have to ask Kevin because he said.
Kevin said, and 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 Kevin. And what about Kevin? And Kevin doing good work. And Kevin, 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 and Kevin.
Shut up.
Yeah, that's about right. All right, we'll continue.
Because as a group, we all suffer from this. We don't trust ourselves because we're afraid to fuck up. And we're afraid to fuck up because it's a consensus amongst people that all black men do is fuck up. You see? It's a consensus that we're known fuck ups. This is why dudes run and get out the way, because they don't want to be called a fuck up. They don't want to say it's because of you. It is because of partially of what you've done. See, I know what this comes from. And we've constantly spoke about this. How men, black men specifically in society, are the beast of burden. We're the ones that when something goes wrong in society, we find a way to put it on black men. And for years, we've spoken about this in this space. So how do we turn around and allow that to become a weapon toward us? See, with us understanding this, we were supposed to know how to not let that affect us. But now we've actually made that stereotype true. Black men don't want nothing. Black men don't want to build nothing. When black men try to build something, they destroy it. Anything they try to build, they destroy. This is evidence right here. This is evidence right here. The destruction of this space is evidence. It's evidence. Black men don't protect nothing. We didn't protect the space. We didn't. We just didn't. And the protection, or the lack of protection, excuse me, started from the higher ups. It didn't start from the chat room, because I've been hearing a lot of y'all trying to blame the chat room and blame the... No, people in the chat room are your supporters. They're here to support what they're looking at and what they're watching. It's not their fucking job to protect you. It's not. It's their job to promote you, to promote the message, to spread the message. It is our job as a core group of men to protect each other. To keep the integrity of what we're representing together. That was our job. But we didn't trust in ourselves enough to see that through.
I find that interesting because if content creators, which were, mostly men in the space, weren't able to get along, weren't able to have some agency and function, look at what we have now. Just take a look at it. Look at what happened. It's trying to find the right words. It's kind of funny how I'm finding people pointing fingers at each other. I hadn't heard about the chat room fault. I haven't heard about that one. But I have heard it's a specific content creator's fault of why the space is the way it is, which goes back to why the men weren't able to come together and form something. Because just think about it, you don't have to agree on everything or even most things, but have some type of common courtesy that you want to stick to a program. It's like, this is what we want. We want this space. We want men to be able to come and learn about this, learn about that. They
Mm-hmm.
can come get some help over here. And it started off that way. There were some places that you can go if you want to know more about tech and um, different things like that. You can get that information. I remember a channel that dealt only with child support. You were able to get help with that. And it started that way. And now you just have, I don't know, twerking contests, um,
Mm-hmm.
all
I
kind
would
of things.
say I would say this. I aspire to be like Mr. Anton Daniels and his wife, a family, nuclear
Mhm.
family. I aspire to be like Danica Marie and her husband, nuclear family. Is there something that you can aspire to be, and then the rest will follow, right? I'm just using that as an example.
I think what happens is, I think what happened was, and this is something I've always spoke on. There was never any structure set up here.
There you go. Structure. Thank you.
You had guys who would speak on different things, but there was the people, the architects of the space. They didn't set the space up. They didn't set the hierarchy of the space where they were the council, and whoever wanted to come into space and create this type of content, they had to be vetted and then approved. A
Okay.
lot of guys were just allowed to come here under the guise of I'm here to speak to men and listen to men talk and all of that stuff. That was the breeding grounds for allowing incels to come into the space,
Okay.
because these men weren't vetted. These men were just allowed to come here and be here. And in the world of men, we know that that's dangerous. When we outside and doing what we doing, we don't just let men hang around us. Hey, dude, who you know? Somebody know this dude?
Okay.
You know, somebody know this dude? Who know him? Who you related to? You know, it's a vetting process.
Mm-hmm.
There was never no vetting process here. Dudes were just allowed to be here under the guise of I got a problem with black women, which was a
Mm-hmm.
problem.
Mm-hmm.
Which was a problem.
I find it
Which was a
actually very
problem.
scary. It's not even just that they're allowed to be here, is they're allowed to be leaders and thought leaders, in movement in general, even though whether they've been vetted originally or not, if you vet them now, all the information comes out that they're fraudulent, right? All the information comes out that they lied about their life, that they have no more success than anybody else here. In fact, if anything, they might have more failure than a lot of people here, but it doesn't matter as long as they are saying all of the right stuff and, backhanding all of the right women, promoting all of the right, pipe dreams for men and validating and taking away accountability for men in all the right places and all the right ways, then it's okay, right? We're just going to ignore the fact that after they've been vetted, we found out they were fraudulent. It doesn't matter because look at this, look at what they're saying and look how good it makes me feel. And that to me is, I think, the scariest part.
Well, let's look in deeper into that because mental health, right? How do you address putting things in the past? Someone try trespassing me, someone hating on me, or what? How do you hold your own self accountable, and how do you catch someone red-handed and still forgive them, or in the moment close the deal, even though you're going through adversity? That's leadership through your community, and then you galvanize other young men, and you have mothers wanting to send their sons to you. That's galvanizing. That's leadership. So this is, it's a big mental health block when young men cannot establish reconciliation. And this is supposed to happen from the years of 1 to 7, by the way. It's supposed to be stored in your brain how to come up to with it, basically problem solving and not coming to your emotions or coming to a hyper ego, but basically talking things through. And at the end of the day, you have another day where we can all be calm and then talk about it when we're calm. So there's ways to get through things to the other side, but mental health and the way we are trained to get through by the environment we've grown up in or the traumatized, because I'm traumatized, and traumatizing is not a bad thing. It could mean, for example, you're not going to the club because a lot of people just naturally hate on you and you get in fights, or you get people that hate on you. So you just stop going. So you're traumatized of that. Or it could be something simpler, but when you're traumatized, then obviously if you go in that environment or forced in, you probably won't know how to handle it, which leads to lack of leadership.
Sir, I have to address that. Quite respectfully, I have to disagree about your point where well, if you're a failure in all aspects of life, but you can get people to follow you and bring your children, that bring their children to be for you to be a mentor for them. Well, that's you galvanizing. No, that's you being a cult leader. That's you, basically preying on people's insecurities and preying on vulnerable populations who don't know better. And so the only success you in essence have is your success of being able to fool people into paying you for all of your good talk. That's very different from somebody who made mistakes in life, okay, or got themselves into the bottom of the bottom, was born at the bottom of the bottom, and they worked diligently, right, to change their world around and to accomplish things on their own merit, right, and then later come and say, hey, now that I've accomplished this, let me show you what I've accomplished. Whereas in what I've seen far too many times are people who've accomplished nothing and have nothing until the people who are following them on YouTube pay them ducats and ducats of cash. And now they've accomplished something. But the only thing that they've accomplished is being able to sell you a good enough story and prey on all your insecurities and fears and worries and whatever enough for you to pay them, which is not the same thing.
I totally agree, and I was talking from the context of men who have issues, and the only thing they know is to revert to the trope of women. And so when I speak on that, I mean if you know how to problem solve, basically from the age of 1 to 7, and you know how to get through to the other side of adversity, or in the adversity, you still can close deals. This is where you can have a better environment in your environment. Now, to the from the woman's standpoint, I think what they have seen here is a tunnel of incels, and they've seen would men, or obviously men have their opinions, or whatever. But what has happened here is this is the black. It's supposed to be a black space. So if you have married couples in this space, right? Obviously, that would be something that I would aspire to want to be like. I'm just using an example. And if that was the leadership that I look up to, and they uh, lead the space, for example, or have more channels like that, where the channel owners are aspiring for me to be like, then there won't be panels, I guarantee you, where there'll be bashing of men or women. There will be, and this is another thing, brother. Having a wife to network for me, my ego then can be used, like you said, in other areas. This is what Anton speaks about. His wife talks to other wives who has rich husbands and network and business. My ego now could be put into doing other things for generational wealth. And black men, we have to learn that because we're still behind. So that's the context I'm using.
Okay, thank you for that. And we'll play a little bit more. Let's see. Here it goes.
You see? You see? So all of the shit that we've spoken about here for years, it meant nothing. You know why it meant nothing? Because when it was time to stand on it, ran from it. Where in masculinity, it denotes running, fleeing. Not saying you're supposed to stay in some situation and just get hurt, but you're not supposed to abandon ship. You see? But this happens because this is what happens when men don't trust themselves. You don't want to look at yourself in the mirror. It goes back to yesterday's show. Not wanting to face the man in the mirror, not wanting to look yourself in the mirror and say, I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball. There's a lot of things that I could have did better, that I didn't see. I was irresponsible. I didn't take counsel from the men that I had around me who was trying to warn me, who was trying to warn all of us. What the fuck do y'all think the purpose of messengers are? It is to warn the people of what's to come. But y'all don't know when y'all hear a messenger. You think you hearing some nigga that's just here to get some cash apps. See, this is the problem. This is the problem. Y'all are not internally locked in. As I said before, and y'all can go check out that stream. This is what happens when black men become worldly and wayward. There's too many wayward black men. We're not locked into nothing. This is why we don't understand who we are, each other, and what positions we play. Because we don't understand each other from a spiritual perspective. We don't understand who's vibrating on what energy, what this guy's about. Why is he teaching what he's teaching? Why he teaches the way he teaches? See, all of us were supposed to understand that with each other. We never took time to do that. That's why it always was chaos and confusion. Because you niggas never took the time to understand that we're under spiritual warfare. And this is how they keep black men contained. By constantly waging spiritual warfare. The young versus the old. Millennials versus Gen X. Gen X versus who? The baby boomers. This is spiritual warfare. Which all goes back to the lack of trust. Because the Gen Xers had to deal with the baby boomers who did them dirty. Those Gen X men did not trust those baby boomer men. Why? Because those baby boomer men lied to them, led them astray, told them a bunch of bullshit, lied to them, left them, abandoned them.
Sheep, this is what we started the show with. And I had a question. Well, we probably both, me and Ruby, had a question on what did you mean as far as with the different categories of, millennials, and baby boomers, and all of that.
Well, basically, and I think I said this later on, but I was basically speaking from the perspective that you've constantly heard from a lot of guys in the space, where you hear the beefing between, baby boomers and Gen X's. And I personally know about that because, as I said in the stream, my uncles are baby boomers.
Okay.
And a lot of them grew up with resentment issues. They were angry a lot. They were mad. Like, especially one of my uncles, like, this dude is still mad about shit that he had to deal with when he was a kid. And he damn near 50 years old. And like, since I was young, he used to always tell me, yo, you lucky. You grew up with both of your parents. You lucky, you da 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 da, you da 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 da, because I went through hell growing up, because I hate this world and da 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 da. So a lot of
Okay.
the sentiments that these guys, these Gen X men around here,
Mm-hmm.
have for their uncles and their fathers and all of that, I've dealt with that firsthand with my
Oh,
uncles.
yeah. I
And
wanted to make sure I had that right because Ruby had asked, and I had said, I think he means like the 50-year-old have children that are like in their 20s and 30s, and
mhm,
that's who he's talking about. So, okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Like, I wasn't sure if you were saying, I guess my issue was, I wasn't sure if you were saying that the older generations are more bitter and the problem was worse then, as far as them feeling more abandoned and whatever, or if you were saying that the younger generations are the ones who are more bitter and feeling more abandoned. Like, I just wasn't sure the directionality.
Oh, well, not if you keep playing it, you'll hear where I was going with it. But I'll
Yeah.
basically tell you where I was going with it was I was basically saying that the trauma is passed down gener- through each generation because the baby boomers abandoned the Gen Xers. The Gen Xers, from them being abandoned, they've learned not to trust men. So
Mhm,
these Gen X men then begin to do what? Abandon their sons, who are the millennials.
mhm.
They begin to abandon us. Why? Because they didn't learn how to be men correctly. Because they were abandoned by the men who raised them. So it's a passed down thing where now in today's time as black men, it plays out when we communicate with each other. The
Okay.
abandonment, the cutthroat, all of that same those same things play out in our relationships when we try to do business, when
You're
we're
so
trying
right.
to build things. It plays out that because that trauma was never healed,
Yep.
it was never resolved. So we bring those same things into the relationship with other men who are not our family members.
And then you
Okay.
can't
So
you can't get to the next level of communication to bear
Right,
fruit, right?
right, right.
okay. So then let me
Yeah.
ask a question. So this is basically what you're saying is all four generations are suffering from this generational abandonment and frustration
Mhm,
and all of that. Okay, so
mhm.
let me ask a question then. What about the generation before the boomers? As in, why were the boomers abandoned? Why, what happened to that generation before them? For this new kind of issue to start with the boomers.
You know what's interesting? I'm trying to find that out now in my family, honestly, Classic Root,
Mm,
because I
okay.
don't know. And and when I ask my Gen X older cousins and uncles and all of that, they only know but so much. I
Mm,
have to go, you know what's crazy? I have to go to the women
mm,
because the women for some reason know more parts of the story. They know the missing parts
Oh.
mm-hmm,
because I've already tried this. I've been doing this now for the last couple of years. Like every time somebody significantly die in my family, like
mm-hmm,
because in 2021 I lost two major people in my life. I lost my grandmother first, my mother's mother. She died in the beginning of 2021 in March, and then my dad died December 31st. So you know, with both of those losses, it sends me deeper into that quest of finding out, where what happened from the beginning.
I
Like
can
how did it
I,
all begin here for it to get to me?
I think for me,
mm-hmm,
I was in the
Mhm,
middle of my grandma transition because it the property and the will was a very changing thing in the last 20, 30 years because, if look, my grandparents died or my dad died, it automatically went to me. That has changed. That has also changed in most countries. Um, then you had the men who were being buried, and then you had like the sweetheart or the other woman coming to the funeral. You had that going on in the 70s and 80s, and it really isn't happening like that anymore. But that's trauma that had to be dealt with, that was carried on now to, like what you're saying. So it's unheard thing. Then you had, of course, uncles touching the nieces and so on and so forth, and daddies touching the daughters, and these things are traumatizing that were going on in these 80s and 90s. And really, with the information and internet, you really can't be getting away with these kind of things no more. Thankful for that. But this is the trauma that I experience, especially when someone dies and the will, because it has changed so much to where it doesn't just go to the oldest son. It actually goes uh, to the wife now, which is, I think, in my opinion, it should. But it's in different places. But you get my point. So sisters and brothers fighting over the property when or dad dies, and all of these things have I experienced that has left people mad and angry. Yeah.
I,
Mhm.
everybody.
Welcome.
Hi, good evening,
Hey, what's
Greetings.
going on? Shar, Ruby, Vonda, Sheep. This person is.
Sir
Uh,
Patty.
Good,
Hmm.
Trey.
how you doing? How you doing? I'm
Good night.
wondering, how you doing? I know Sheep asked the question, and because I know Ruby asked the question about the, what I mean, like, okay, after the boomers, what I mean, who got them to that point? And we forget, right? We don't talk about the greatest generation of the silent generation, right? Where that trauma initially started setting in the boomers. And
Mm-hmm.
what happened is the greatest generation is from the 1920s to the 1940s. That's the Great Depression. That's your World War One era, your World War Two. Black people had just removed from slavery in the 19th century. Still got vagrancy laws, still got arresting black folks, especially black men, putting them on fucking chain gangs and doing all of this crazy stuff, right? But they don't talk about it because if you talk to people that were born in the 1920s and stuff like that, like my grandmother passed in 2019. She was 80 something years old. She was born in the 20s, right? And then you talk about the migration aspect where men needed to go, after the Korean War, they had to move. Like my great uncles, like most of my family from my from my mother's side, they migrated up from North and South Carolina up to Baltimore. And all of those men worked in Bethlehem Steel or the Domino Sugar Factory, or they went up to Pennsylvania or Pittsburgh or Philly or up to New York. So a lot of black people, their roots 3 generations away come from the South. So the migration of black folk out of the South into the North, or in the Midwest, going up to Chicago or stuff like that, the men went first. But a lot of those men didn't make it back due to war or due to they just didn't come back or something happened or whatever, right? So then what happens is then the men are left behind. And those men that are left behind aren't men yet. 12, 14, 15 years old,
True.
and then they're the men of the house,
Hmm.
right? They're the men of the house because they have to provide for the family because back in the 20s and the 40s, they had to enact a law. We keep forgetting, right? We just talk about men overall. They had to enact a law. It's called the child labor law, where children couldn't work in factories under a certain age. Like you could work agricultural work, but you couldn't work in a factory. So children were working in factories to make things meet. So you became 10, 11, 12, you start working. I got plenty of great uncles or older men in the family to say, hey, the quickest way for me to make money for my family was to sign up for the war. So they would lie on their enlistment papers that they were like 17 or 18 years of age and they was like 15, 16. So you got that. Then you got the black men that didn't come back after the war because of the way they was treated. They were treated better overseas. And then, you know what I mean? So you go, and they didn't have any children, but you go through this significant upheaval. So then the boomer generation, they got to fight through all whatever they got to fight through. But then they're going through whatever what y'all are talking about, the abandonment issue. Where's my pops? Where's my daddy? This, that, and the third. Then we got to talk about the dereliction of men just running around, just smashing down everybody, right? We don't talk about that part, right? Where the men that are left behind and have some able body, they got the wife and they got 3 side women across town. You know that old saying, is your daddy the milkman? Right?
Then they give me your game because they
Right.
pimp.
Exactly, right? and you got that, right? So you walking past a man that could be your daddy, but everybody in the town know that's your daddy, but he can't claim you. You got sisters and brothers and stuff like that. Like, you know, you have these secrets being held across, or like you said about the whole thing, or the other thing, right? You know, the miracle baby, right? The aunt and the uncle that never could have had a baby, all of a sudden she had a baby, but that one cousin that disappeared. It came back a year later. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, there's a lot of things, but when it comes to men, all of us born in, I don't know, you know, what year Sheep was born. I was born in 81. And I remember sitting out there waiting for my pops.
Yeah, you know about it.
Yeah, show up. And he said he coming. And I sat there on the step for hours. Nigga didn't show up. Right? And the third time he told me, oh, I'm gonna come back and get you. I said, if you don't take me with you right now to wherever we going, nigga, I don't care if we going around the corner to the corner store.
And you meant that.
I said, but if you don't come back, nigga, stay gone. Don't come back. I don't want to see you. But the thing was is that you get to this point where, and I hear it, you know what I mean? I hear it. And I'm gonna say this too, is we as millennials are on this weird trek because half of our life we was outside as kids, our adolescence, and the rest of half of it, the television kind of raised us. And the economics, we know all of the necessary factors in the environment, but it does not negate the fact of what happened. And the only thing we can do as millennials, which is the crazy part, is we got to stop it from seeping into the next generation. Because if I was born in 81 and I'm considered an early millennial or however way you want, they keep moving the goalposts with that. But if we're the first millennials at 81, I'm 40. The boomers supposed to talk to me. They ain't supposed to be talking directly to the generation that's below me.
And brother, if I can just comment on that real quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
you know, this is what leads to disaster for young black men, because we all know that 41% of the boys who graduated from Baltimore last year and this semester, they weren't able to even read at a 3 grade level, right?
Yeah.
Without a father in the home, juvenile detention rates is 70%, right? This is in state operation institutions. Aggressive, beating your woman or beating the girlfriend or beating the wife or forcing rape on the wife. Aggressive, 75% of rapists motivated by displaced anger. The brother spoke about this. Substance abuse, 75% of adolescent patients in substance abuse centers don't have a dad. High school dropouts, 71% of all high school dropouts don't have a dad. And that's added on to what you just said, the elements that we lack. So the black boys, and to throw on that, I must be tough. I must act tough. I must, sound tough. and I must have big dick energy, and all of these things are lies. When high character, and like I said, you galvanize your community by how you lead with the example, not by really trying to get followers, because there's two aspects of leadership. There's a new age leadership where I have 1 million followers, and regardless of what I do, I influence. And there's the leadership when you go on the ground root floor and you galvanize people from day one to where you got.
And
Well, I will say we are at that time, and this was wonderful. I really loved the stream. I mean, I really loved it. I've watched it twice already, and
appreciate it.
answered the questions that I had in the back of my mind. I sat around many panels. I quietly said nothing. I just read comments. I mod, and I never, I just had those questions and never saw or got any answers. And tonight it was really clear with your stream tonight or this evening, Sheep. And thank you for that. I also want to invite you back, and hopefully the other gentleman that I invited, because I know that's his specialty too, with the mental health, taking care of yourself, the physical part as well. So we can have the full conversation. So we'll have a part two. Um, when, I don't know. It
Yeah.
depends on you guys' schedule, and we'll see how that goes. And let's see, anything else? Oh, tomorrow is Saturday. Is our article reactions. So tune in to that show, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Everyone that tuned in tonight, I want to thank you so much for contributing to the channel. Your likes, your shares, your views, all that is important. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. And if you can, tune in tomorrow. We got some articles, some Kens and Karens for you. I hope tonight was enlightening to you, give you some thoughts. Come back next time. I'll let you guys know, and we'll do a part two. And hopefully you have some stories to tell. You can jump on the panel, type in the chat room, whatever you can do to add to the conversation. Let's see what else. And I thanked everyone. Yes. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Hope to see you tomorrow. And until then, peace.
Cheers, y'all.
Peace.